Alrighty then, take 4. Let's make it decent in less than 10 minutes. Also, cat. Things that we believe in that are not true, things that we believe is real that don't exist. Might as well start with the myth of the inevitable perfect progress. The idea that things always get better, new is always better than old, and so on and so forth. This is a half-truth. Meaning, it is partially true, but not entirely and not always. But we treat it as gospel, we treat it as religion. We believe in it for no reason other than we just do. Not all things new are better. No, change is not always good. So I'll give you a couple of examples to convince you that I'm right. Debit cards, credit cards. This is new technology, and of course new is better, so cards are better than paper, obviously. And you can buy online, and it's so easy, it's so fast, wow, it's so amazing. And then you realize that every single time you purchase something with a card, you can be taxed, and eventually you will be taxed every single time you do it. And you might say, well, isn't taxing good? Well, do you think every single thing should always be taxed? That's up for debate, but let's say you don't. If you only use cards, you're always taxed, even when the tax rate is atrocious. It's over the roof. It's terrible. But yeah. Also, let's just say you have a government that is not very good. Not too hard to believe in that. And you are saying something that is not politically acceptable, and the government doesn't like it. So you become the bad boy, and your bank blocks you. Well, not the bank, but your card. And you cannot get paid, you cannot pay, you cannot exist in a modern society. So you become a hermit, you become homeless. Unless, of course, you switch to a different card, but what if all of them block you? So that's the problem. If you use cash, that of course cannot happen. Another thing to think about is tracking. If you only use cards, you can be tracked everywhere. What you buy, why you buy, when you buy, and so on and so forth. With cash, of course, you cannot do that. With cards out of the way, let's talk about culture. Let's say that all culture gets better with time. We become more smart, we become more big brain all the time. But what about good traditions like family dinners? What about birthdays? What about New Year? What about Christmas? What about I don't know, the 1st of May? What about those things? Those are all traditions. Should we get rid of them? What about the amazing Chinese tradition of Qigong, the practice of maintaining and increasing one's health on an energetic level? That is 1,000 years old, thousands of years. A very old practice. Should we get rid of it because it's old? Should we get rid of a nuclear family because it's old? Should we get rid of marriage? Should we get rid of parents raising their own children instead of letting the government do that? Should we get rid of all old traditions because they're old, because they're worse? Should we? Should we not? Well, if you believe in perfect progress, everything new is better and change is good, so we should get rid of everything, destroy everything, and just I don't know, do something new, because new is better, new is good. That kind of sounds dumb, because it is. A third example would be good old video games. Yeah, let's talk about video games. In the past, games were more of a niche thing. And they were made by smaller companies for smaller amounts of people to consume. Also, games were more skill-based, meaning if you're not good, you cannot win, you cannot pay to win. You have to figure out the game by yourself. That doesn't mean all games are better than new ones, but still, a lot of older games require you to think, to solve puzzles by yourself without much help from the game. Require you to beat a level without regenerating health. Get good, beat the game. And a lot of modern games, of course, have lots of tutorials, more linear levels, let's just say less smart puzzles, and very often lower difficulties. Of course, you might say, well, it's better to make games easy. If you believe in progress, you think that old is bad. Well, yeah, sure. Easier is better, yeah. Except when you're a good gamer, you want some fun challenge, and you cannot get it anywhere because all games are easy. Of course, not all of them, but yeah. And of course, let's talk about the graphics. Right now, a lot of the big games that are advertised, that are mainstream, they look like reality. This would be the level, and I would be the protagonist. And of course, to make a big, realistic, detailed game, one must realize that games don't make themselves. You have to use very expensive proprietary technology to assemble all those millions of polygons, because you don't make a bush from scratch, you don't make a human from scratch, you don't make anything from scratch anymore. So you need to pay for those expensive programs to do it for you. Also, bigger, more detailed games, they simply require more people to make them. So you have bigger teams. Instead of 5 people making a game, instead of 20 people, you have several hundred or 1,000. And all those people have to be paid at least minimum wage, and often above that. So you have games with astronomical budgets and lack of variety. All games have to be realistic. All games have to be cinematic. All games have to be more linear. Or the generic open world sandbox thing. Well, to make it more simple, bigger realistic games require huge budgets. You cannot make a big realistic game on a small budget, so you're forced to use a large budget, which makes the game cost more and more difficult to produce, and of course lesser risks taken, so you have less variety in gaming. All games are pretty much the same. Why is that? The same realistic sandbox shooter, cover shooter thing with RPG elements and collectibles, well, whatever. So not a lot of variety. And why is that? Well, when games are expensive, you cannot take chances. But can games be less expensive? No, of course not. They have to be realistic, they have to be big, they have to be detailed. Do they? Well, if you believe in progress, you think that newer is better, and we can only make big, detailed, realistic games now. Therefore, they are better, therefore we should only make them, and we should not make old-style games because they're only for men-children with their nostalgia. All games have to be like, Red Dead Revolver 2, Red Dead Redemption. I know the original more than the sequel. So, to summarize, if you believe in progress and you think all new things are better, all old things are worse, you have to ask yourself, is that the actual truth? Is that real? Or do you believe in this like a religion for no reason? Stop and think. Is progress always good? Is change always good? Are all things always bad? Really, think about it.